I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, October the 8th, brought to you in part by Brommagen Commodities. Find them on the National Beef Wire on channel 1075, or you can go to brommagencommodities.com. Be sure and call them. Candy there, my good friend Candy Sullivan, she knows what's going on. If you guys need questions answered, you need help hedging your cattle, doing some risk management, maybe some different kind of risk management strategies that involve other things other than just grains and cattle, but she knows how to do all that. She knows how to put together a portfolio. You might just want to speculate on some things. This deal's going to turn around, guys, and it's looking pretty bullish for early next year. If you want to get on and ride, you can help push it too, and Candy can help you do that. She's got an office right there in the fantastic Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky. Got a good office there. If you guys are in that area, stop in there and see her, or just give her a call. Go to Brommagen Commodities, get her phone number, or send her an email, or what do you want to do. But she's been in the business a long time. Used to be a cattle buyer lady there. She raises Charolais cattle herself. We won't hold that against her, but be sure and get a hold of them there. More affectionately known as Bromcom, but get a hold of them at Brommagen Commodities. Temperature swings. It's not unusual here this week. We're going to see 30 to 40 degree temperature swings. There's going to be a lot of places even more than that, but here in the Texas Panhandle, we're getting down in the 30s overnight or early in the morning, and then getting up into the 70s in the afternoon, which is, it's nice weather. You got to enjoy it. It gets crisp and cool in the evenings. It gives you a little spark when you get up in the mornings to feel that cool air, and then you start shedding the jackets pretty early in the afternoon there. But it's hard on calves, and it's hard on calves that have just relocated, and they're especially those that are missing their mamas. And if you haven't inoculated those calves, it's even worse. So guess what? In the sales, whenever they're selling those cattle, if they haven't had the shots, at least 1 rounds, preferably 2 and maybe 3, but we need them 60 days weaned. If they're just 30 days weaned, I wouldn't even mention it, because that's just about long enough to break. But 45 to 60 days is preferable, and it makes a big difference, guys, when you go to sell those calves. A big difference. So be sure and let your marketing agent, your commission man, your sale barn guy, whatever you want to call him, make sure he knows what you've done to those cattle. He needs to know what day you weaned them. He needs to know whether they've been cut with a knife. Don't crimp your bulls, guys. You're just asking for trouble. Cut them with a knife. If you have to band them, just make sure you use that new bander that really gets a hold of them and takes them off, and wait till they completely drop off before you send them to the sale. But guys want their calves, their steer calves, cut with a knife. They want them healed up. They want them weaned 45 to 60 days. You should have been doing this all along. They want some shots in them, guys. So be sure you do that. But October is not National Dead Calf Month for nothing. It's mostly due to those high-risk calves that have been just pulled right off the cow. They weaned them on the way to the sale barn in a cage trailer, and dumped them in there with a bunch of other strange calves. They stood around and bawled till they were completely exhausted, and then put on a truck and hauled no telling how far, with no shots or any kind of health background to keep them healthy. So you got to do all those things, guys. They're not just talking about it. You absolutely have to do it. And the discounts for those high-risk calves that haven't had those things done is more than you can stand. It's kind of like DWI. You can't afford it. You can't afford not to precondition your calves and get them ready to go. So let's talk about the board on Monday. October live cattle futures up 90 cents at 108 1/4. Just kind of trying to chase down the cash, especially after we had Saturday trade there. At 109 in western Nebraska, Colorado, and places like that. December was up 42 cents at 111.20. Your spring contracts were off just a little bit, but looking out there for April, April is your highest always. It's sitting at 118.70, so still doesn't sound too awful bad. October feeder cattle down, and we saw that all week last week, and it's continuing this week. Your feeder cattle are going down, your fat cattle futures are going up. Your feeder cattle for October down 27 cents at 141.70. November down 45 cents at 140.92. So your feeder cattle buyers, your feedlot guys are looking at this fat cattle market that finally looks like it's got a fire under it, gaining dollars and dollars, and these packers are actually showing some demand for these fat cattle and pursuing them and raising the prices on them through the week. So that's giving your feeder cattle market a jolt, but the feeder cattle futures are definitely not supportive at all. Just kind of keeping an eye on this harvest and seeing how things go there. That could definitely hurt your feeder cattle futures, and with all these calves coming to town, it's just that time of year where you're going to have a lot of pressure on your feeder cattle futures. You go to the sales, and especially if it's under roof, you can't hear yourself think for those calves that are bawling. And I tell you what, guys, it's just, if you're going to stay in the cattle business and you're selling in an auction market, now if you've got one iron ranch calves and long strings of them, you can get away with that, selling them private treaty even, or on a big video. You can wean them the day you ship them. But those cattle that they do that with are going to have a long health program on them. They're going to have certificates. Everything's going to be right. But, if they've got several hundred head, they can wean those calves the day they ship them. But you guys that are selling in the sale barns, you're not going to get away with it. You're going to take significant discounts. Weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade, 5-area negotiated trade, 78,800 head. That compares to 73,800 head the previous week, but 111,600 head same week a year ago, and we're not even getting close to that. We haven't since the fire, especially in Oakland, Kansas. Tyson Fresh Meats there, it's just been really light purchasing on the spot market cash there, but we are keeping the price up. And so, especially in the northern plains, they're pretty short of the kind of cattle that they want. If you've got them, you can ask a little something for them. Look at your live steer prices last week in your 5-area negotiated trade area. Live cattle, steers and heifers ranged in price from 104 all the way to $110, but it was mostly 106 to 109. 109 prevalent late there in the northern plains, especially on the west side. That 106, 107, other areas, especially in the southern plains, it was mostly 107. But your weighted average on live steers in your 5-area, 107.34. That was up $2.41 compared to the previous week. Good gains. On your dressed steers and heifers, prices ranged from 164 all the way to 171, but it was mostly 170. Any significant dress trade was at 170 last week, and that happens mostly in the northern plains and eastern Nebraska and Iowa. That's where most of your dress trade takes place. Not much at all in the southern plains, and hardly any out west up in the northern plains. But your weighted average on dress steers, 169.80, so that tells you how close to 170 it was. But that was up $4.51 on the weighted average. That's huge gains, guys, huge gains. But we're expecting to stay at least steady this week. Keep your heels dug in. So I was talking to Corby Coast there with his feedlot in Carrington, North Dakota. And he was wanting me to mention, and I'm glad to do it, a young customer of his by the name of Connor Fike. And he's got some really good heifers, 2 loads of them, shipping them down to Stockman's in Yankton, South Dakota, but get a little competitive bidding on those cattle. So if you guys are in the need of some fat cattle, some of you generous packer buyers there that are going there to bid on some cattle, take a look at Connor Fikes fat heifers. You can see them loading them right here, and they should be in good condition. I got a long haul on them. They'll be the weigh up will be right on you. On them. They've been long time fed, good fat cattle. I tell you what, the kind that ought to ring the bell, and I'll be anxious to see what they bring on Tuesday here. But look at your nationwide sales negotiated were 96,400 head. That's in the entire nation, and about 13.5% of those for the 15 to 30 day delivery, and that's kind of on the high side. Historically it's not, but we haven't been seeing a whole lot of those 2 to 4 week delivery cattle, just around 6 to 8%, just 13.5% now, so not really setting you up for a fall. Look at your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on Cattle Market Central, late in the day on Monday, sitting at 143.88, which was down 35 cents compared to the end of last week, but your market's not really any lower. We're just starting to sneak some of those calves into your feeder cattle index weight range. So all of them go in on cash feeder index and the RTI too. But you start getting some of those big calves weighing in the 7s and 8s, and they're just not as desirable. They tend to be pretty fleshy, and your guys aren't going to buy them like they are yearlings. But we're progressively getting to the time of the year where our yearlings are drying up, and the runs in your auctions are going to be in predominantly calves, and growing more so all the time. We're in the calf run right now. We haven't seen very many sales of calves yet, so we got a lot of calves to sell, even though total calf inventories to sell this fall are going to be much, much lighter. And I think we'll see that come to fruit probably early next year as we start getting into some spring sales, and we just noticed that we haven't sold that many calves, and there's not going to be there very many to sell this spring. But look at some big sales. Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma National Stockyards, 8,500 head there. Feeder steers, these would be yearlings, steady to $4 higher. Feeder heifers $1 to $5 higher. Good sale there in Oklahoma City. Calves are steady to $4 higher. Look at this one package of calves. Some fancy steer calves, 64 head of them, weighed 512 pounds at $168.50. Joplin Regional Stockyards, just 3,500 head. That's a light run for them, but they got rid of them pretty handily there. Steady to $5 higher on the bulk of steers and heifers, both your calves, your feeding calves, and what yearlings they had on hand. Some of your peewee calves, a little lightweights, those would be kind of under 4.5. They were sharply higher. And look at this this automated market report right from the block there at Joplin Regional Stockyards. And you see, this is a typical sale for Joplin. They get a good test of all the weights and classes. They'll have some fancy cattle there. They'll have a lot of commodity cattle too. That's Joplin Regional Stockyards. You can watch Joplin Regional Stockyards on dvauction.com every Monday and every Wednesday for the cow sale. Or you can go on to National Beef Wire, channel 6000, and watch them on there. But a good test of virtually all your weight groups and classes on Monday there at Joplin Regional Stockyards. Look at another sale, Faith, South Dakota. This is the only place you'll find this market report out of Faith, South Dakota. As big as they are, they're still not big enough to have a federal state market reporter in there, but they've got the automated market report on Cattle Market Central. Look at the run there on Monday at Faith Livestock Commission in Faith, South Dakota. You see pretty impressive prices there. Look at your best tested weight was on your 5-weight steers. 1,207 head of 5-weight steers, average 556, 153.97. That's your weighted average price. And then 547 head of your 6-weight steer calves. They were on the light side, averaging 617 at 154.11. But your high price that I saw on Monday, and Toby made sure that I saw it, but I would have picked it up anyway. But Sylvan Sales Commission, Sylvan Grove, Kansas, the little market with the big prices. Look at this, 74 head, 648 pound steer calves, $166. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.